into blockchains. All this in a very short video is what I want to walk through with you today. My name is Julian. On my channel, it's all about making you crypto fit. I discuss the beautiful world of decentralization and Web3 and the Metaverse, and obviously blockchains play a huge part in this. So let me dive right in so you understand what this is all about. For those of you that maybe don't know, Web1, very early version of kind of what this was all about, is basically users consuming. And they pay companies. So this is how you access the internet. This is you reading stuff online. This is basically the very, very beginning, 1990s, maybe the beginning of the 2000s. So it's the very early version kind of the internet. And then, especially with social media, Web2 started. And this is users consuming plus creating. And obviously this builds on top of Web1. And now the question is, how does this get paid? And this is basically social media, if you think about it, right? That's blogs, that's Facebook, that's all this stuff. Now, and this is where a lot of this criticism actually comes in. In Web2, these companies actually make you the product. So you're not really actually the consumer, you're actually the product. And your data is being sold. And that is pretty much how Web2 is kind of financed. So here the customers pay, here also the customers pay, but it's not you anymore, it's the companies, right? So that's important. And so now when we talk about Web3, and this entire topic kind of started over the last 1 or 2 years, the concept here is users consume plus create, but now is the really important part, they own their stuff. And this is really important. So this is how it kind of changes to Web 2. So in Web 1, the users had to pay because they weren't creating anything. In Web 2, they're now creating, they paid with their data. And now in Web 3, they read, consume, they create, and they own. And so now the major question here is, who pays for all this, right? Who pays for all this? And this is actually a very interesting question, because how in the first place does it work that people actually own their stuff? Because in centralization, this actually doesn't work. So here, this is where decentralization comes in. And so this is where in Web3, we have all those decentralized ideas of social media, decentralized ideas of games, decentralized ideas of kind of creating any aspect. This is obviously where NFTs come in, non-fungible tokens. So this is this entire part here. And at the end, it still comes down to this major question, who pays for it? And I have a bit of a skepticism here that Web3 will work the way people envision it as it is today, because at the moment, basically how this is being paid is by companies creating these tokens out of thin air. And people really put value into these tokens at the moment, and these tokens are going up. So at the moment, there's still, to me, a bit of a skepticism in exactly how these models work. At the moment, because prices of tokens are going up, that's why it really works. But let's see if in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, this model actually still works. Because it would really require people to consistently pay for these services. And I know that in Web 2, people are always complaining about that Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube is selling that data. But the other question is, would you pay $10 a month to use WhatsApp or to use Facebook? I'm not sure. And that is the same question here, right? At the moment it works. Because people play games, they earn tokens playing games, and these tokens right now have a value. But will they still have a value in 5 years or in 10 years? And so, again, some skepticism here. I definitely think it's gonna get figured out somehow. It's gonna get solved right now. And obviously, this is where there's some very interesting kind of projects right now. There's a lot of investments into those projects by VC funds and by investors. If you want, leave me a couple of the comments below of projects that you think that are especially interesting here. And so now let's take this a step further, and I don't know, we could either call this almost Web 4 but this is basically the metaverse. And in the metaverse, and this topic obviously became relatively powerful now with Mark Zuckerberg coming out, rebranding Facebook into this entire metaverse. Obviously, a lot in the entire blockchain and crypto ecosystem talks about this concept. And the idea here is, so you consume, you create, you own, and you are. And that is the big thing here, right? So you actually become an actor. You become a personality in that ecosystem. So here we're basically talking about the Matrix, if you want to call it. And that's where Elon Musk also joked on Twitter, if you die in the metaverse, you also die in real life. So maybe not like he kind of meant it a bit, not like really die, but because that's pretty much everything that you build and everything that you are. And so this kind of rundown should really give you a good idea if you have never heard about Web1, Web2, Web3, the metaverse, and so on, and should give you a really nice idea. A lot of things not really solved here yet, right? I think the entire financial model not fully solved for me. Definitely a very interesting space, probably a space that you need to start off right now, and over the next 5 to 10 years are gonna go really, really, really big. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions on that, any concerns, any projects that you find interesting looking into. And obviously, if you love this stuff here on the channel, then please subscribe to the podcast, follow on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this and following this. I put out regular content explaining all these crazy things of the world of decentralization. And by the way, I'm the founder and CEO of Cake DeFi, decentralized finance space. That's also actually part of this entire decentralized space. If you're not using our company, check us out, cakedefi.com. With this, see you next time. Yours truly, Julian.